Well, welcome and good evening, you wonderful dice of all alignments. I'm Lunar D8, and I honestly don't know if this is recording or not, or how any of it's working. I'm using a Chromebook and just the normal built in recordings. Um, been a fan of Let's Plays for quite a while, since probably about 2007. Watched a lot of Ultra J Man, Cloud 8745. I think it was like 2007. Played like things like I Want to Be the Guy, but yeah, still don't really know anything about what I'm doing. I'm just starting to venture into this, so I don't even know if you guys can hear me. So this whole recording might just be nothing. So, and it just means it's a video where no one can hear anything, or if you can even hear me through this mask. So, yeah. Um, well, despite wearing a mask, I definitely feel very nervous. But introduction. Want to do some Let's Playing? Think I'll probably just get Steam or something, try some games, whatever suggestions, but not sure if I'll actually upgrade what equipment or what I'll get here and there. Beyond that, as far as myself, um, I'm a Christian. I believe strongly in God, Jesus, the Holy Ghost, but I'm probably the most accepting, non judgmental person anyone's ever met. I don't care what race, sexuality, nationality, religion anyone is. And hell, I'm white, but I grew up in an all black church. It's an apostolic church. It's really, really good people. But yeah, just very awkward person who apparently can't talk well even to a webcam and doesn't really understand any of this recording stuff yet. Um, Out of all the Pokemon series, the Orange Island Leagues, that's the best season. I was originally thinking of trying to name this video Primal Journey and Bag of Dicks just for a laugh to, I don't know, get a reaction out of somebody or something. The whole idea of the Primal Journey thing is just, well, a lot of people are getting offended by the whole blind Let's Play thing because I always thought blind Let's Plays were really amazing because people would start going, they would play a game and they had never played it before, hence they were going blind, they had no idea what to expect, and their genuine reactions were very just amazing. It just, if anything, just bright, especially like say Markiplier playing a horror game, just how into it he seems. It's just, I think that's what makes it very entertaining. I was like, oh, well, maybe we could just call it a Primal Journey instead. So, and the other thing, I don't know if I ever discussed that. It's just stuff about the Bible. Like I said, I'm thinking about actually doing readings too. Just read various books, whether it be light novels or Dungeons and Dragons, actual manuals, Warhammer books, or even just the Bible itself. I'm not sure if I really should go into much of any of that stuff, but I feel that's something that talk to anyone about, whether you're religious or not. I mean, hell, if any of you out there have bad experiences with religious people, well, keep in mind, Jesus had very bad experience with religious people. They crucified him. So, I mean, it wasn't the people that didn't believe that, strung him up. It was the people that were very, very religious. I mean, hell, speaking on that, like I said, I don't care what anyone is, like sexuality and all that. And I think one good way to put that is the least I could do comics. I don't know if I had 4 really good web comics. The least I could do. It's got a very energetic, happy protagonist. Goes on very sexual escapades. Pretty cool guy. Then there's Looking for Group. I think it's by the same author, and it's sort of a D&D type setup. And then we have there's Bob and George, which has Mega Man sprites, and we have Nuclear Power with a K, nuclearpower.com. com 8-bit theater. It's got the Final Fantasy 1 sprites. It's really funny. But like I said, least I could do, there was a one of those comics they did, least I could do beginnings, where it's the main character is Rain Summers, and where it's Rain as a kid in these comics, and the least I could do beginnings, and it's drawn on a different art style. So he's actually explored a few different art styles, but what's interesting is that in this one, it's an old timey sort of art style, and he's drawn as a little kid. He's there at a park with his dad, and then there's a very posh religious church woman right next to him. And then, of course, two gay guys on a bench. And of course, the posh, religious, dressed up churchwoman looks at the two gay guys and she feels very disgusted with them. And so she looks at Rain's father and she's like, "How will you explain this to your son?" And Rain's father looks at his son, looks at Rain, and he's like, "Son, do you understand what you just saw?" And looking at the two men on the bench, and it's just Rain goes, "Love." And then he motions toward the woman. And he's like, "And bigotry." And he looks at the woman and says, "No, he's got it. Do you want him to explain it to you?" I don't know. I think in general, one of the biggest things with people is just it's important for everyone to love each other and just have empathy for each other. But yeah, they're just really cool webcomics. I definitely recommend reading them. Like I said, Orange Island League is definitely the best. And like I said, definitely think about trying to get Steam and actually recording gameplay. Probably won't have the webcam working at that point, just be the footage voice. But and like I said, I don't even know if anyone can actually maybe everything I said right now is a mumble, or maybe it's on mute. Maybe might be on mute. I can't tell. I don't understand how to work that yet. But like I said, I believe in God, but there's a lot of stuff in the Bible that just doesn't make sense, other than the whole dinosaur thing, or how time, or how you keep track of how old you are if you're getting close to be 930 years old, or the fact Adam lived to be 930. Then how long was in the garden before that, or even then, just what was life like then, and what language did people speak? What did people actually eat? I mean, granted, I know there's a lot of hypothetical stuff, but even it's just the idea of even when you were at that time before, Abraham and Isaac, and like, what was the oral tradition? Or like, what did everyone actually believe at that point? What was everyone telling each other? What language was everyone speaking? What were the traditions people had back then? Why did people act certain ways? I don't know. And like I said, was thinking about trying to title this like "Bag of Dicks" just to be funny and be like, okay, but that's mainly about the whole story of David, King David's dowry to King Saul when he wanted to marry his daughter. Based told him, "Hey, go out and kill 100 Philistines and, bring me their foreskins for 100 of them." So he goes out and he kills quite a few people and basically gives Saul a bag of 200 dicks. So that's really gross just thinking about, actually. But yeah, think about getting Steam, trying different games, reading Dungeons and Dragons, reading Warhammer books, reading light novels, reading the Bible, having open discussions with people that probably even don't even believe in God. But like I said, it's just, I'm Christian. I'll still read books on Greek mythology, even though I don't believe in any of that. But I find anything I can get a hold of to read fascinating. I know one idea I've been trying to tool around with was an idea of something called 820, but that's just an idea of trying to think of a set of principles for people to go by that would apply to all religions, all people, that wouldn't be dependent on people's viewpoints, just ways in which people could interact with each other and actually just be nice to each other. there's just a lot of different things in the Bible actually would just be interesting to read and discuss with people, even if you guys don't believe in it. Just like, I know I'm trailing off and I'm being quiet, and it's just, oh, I mean, wow. I mean, uh, I shouldn't feel nervous. I'm in a mask. I'm talking to a camera. But then again, I don't even know if this is recording anything either. Um, but I do hope everyone out there is safe and happy, and hopefully I can actually understand how to work any of this at some point. And already at 10 minutes, so I should probably try to talk quicker because I'm probably boring the crap out of everyone. Like I said, this is just various things. Oh, um, but just, I know I was going to mention various parts of the Bible just to be of interest to people aside from the bag of dicks comment. Like just questions about, when Cain, like Adam and Eve taking the fruit, as far as like that's, I mean, what would they even know at that point? What would they talk? What would their life experience be? I mean, it's not like they really had an education. I mean, maybe like leaving a kid alone in a house with a gun and saying, don't touch it. Yes, they know not to touch it, but they're kids. I mean, you have people that have a lack of experience and knowledge in any frame of reference and who don't know better. And I mean, the biggest trait that any of us as people have is curiosity and just maybe a penchant to do really dumb things if you're bored. And then you have people that don't know how to understand their emotions yet because they have no frame of reference to work with. Take Cain and Abel. I mean, me personally, I'm pro Second Amendment just because I feel people should defend themselves. That being said, I'm like an anti violence hippie because I don't want anyone to hurt each other. But at the same time, I want people to be able to defend themselves if anyone ever tries to hurt them. But it's just like, even at the beginning, the Bible starts with someone just taking a rock in the middle of the field and killing his own brother. I mean, it doesn't matter how little technology we have. If someone's going to kill someone, they're going to figure out a way to do it. So that's just depressing. But the main point is this. Cain and Abel, I mean, what were their lives like? How were they supposed to know how to cope with feelings or anger or how they're supposed to do anything? When Cain killed Abel, did he even understand what he did? When he's like, just Abel, get up. Why are you still? It's like, did he understand what happened? And even then, just like, what kind of education would have Adam and Eve given him at that point? I mean, can they even write and read? I mean, what do they even know about anything? And even then, like Cain afterwards, like, oh, what about the rest of the people of the world? Like what if they kill me? I'm like, what other people? Why? It's like, where did these other people come from? How did this fit into the story? Where are these people? And of course, like Adam and Eve probably had a lot of other kids, possibly even before Cain and Abel. Just didn't record them. But even then, that still wouldn't account for that. So it just doesn't make sense. But then again, I'm also one of those people that feels that if aliens exist, then it just means God made them too. But it just, like I said, a lot of stuff doesn't make sense, but no matter what, I still believe in God. But I'm one of those weird people that, even though I believe in God, I like stuff I'll see in the Bible where I don't feel like I agree with the decisions that God made. Which on the one hand, I feel is kind of arrogant and assholeish on my part. On the other hand, it's just decisions that are made don't make sense to me. All right, that is, like I said, at some point try to read through stuff, but things that would be kind of interesting, just to mention, Noah building the boat, building the ark. even if it flooded the whole world or even just part of a continent. One, what about the whole sons of God thing and the Nephilim and all that stuff that's mentioned, the giant's land, the hero's renown? And even then, apparently the main reason for flooding the whole world was just everyone was too violent. That was apparently. Then again, other interpretations of it have to do with like makeup and jewelry and stuff that doesn't make sense. But primarily it was just violence, people killing each other. But that seems to be like the main survival tactic that we have as a species is killing each other. But one thing I would definitely recommend, creepypastas. But I wouldn't recommend listening or reading a lot of them in like a binge. Otherwise, you probably won't be able to sleep very well. But there's one creepypasta called the Noah. No, I can't talk. There's one creepypasta called the Noah Experiment. And it's just a creepypasta. I think it's like 20 minutes long. And it's about a guy who doesn't believe, but he goes through all the math and everything to do it. And just initially, he's like, okay, there's no way it's possible. But then the computer goes through, and I won't ruin the story, but it finds a way to make it possible. But it makes it into a horrifying story. So that no matter how you look at it, if the story of Noah happened in the way that it's described in the Bible, God would have had to help a lot more than he said. Otherwise, it just turns into a nightmarish horror. So I'm going to go with, because no matter what, I believe God's real. But I'm also going to have to go on a limb and believe that God helped a lot more than what is written in the Bible. Otherwise, the whole scenario about how everything would actually work mathematically actually leads into a lot of just outright abuse and murder. And it's just, well, like I said, the name of the creepy pasta, they're horror stories that people read. It's called the Noah Experiment. So something to listen to or read. I prefer listening. I mean, the authors who actually read that stuff, I mean, they're very good at emoting in their voice, whereas me, I'm just someone who speaks in a monotone, and whatever changes in my voice happen, I have no control over. So that's a thing. So beyond that, like I said, just a lot of just questions of, or Sodom and Gomorrah, the main problem there was it wasn't the whole homosexuality thing. That wasn't the issue. The main problem with Sodom and Gomorrah was the fact that they were actually very abusive and violent to people. I mean, when the angels came and visited Lot, they were trying to rape and molest and sodomize them. It wasn't that they were being gay. It was that they were trying to rape people. It was about the murder and the rape. Those were the bad things. There should never be a point where you have to discuss like that's the bad thing. Like those are horrible things. But then there's other interesting things about the Bible, like say Ehud. He was one of it's like Ehud, I think. It's one of the judges that were before Samson. There was actually a really fat guy, Eglon, who was oppressing the Jews at that point, that. And for some reason, Ehud had mentioned that he's left-handed. Anyway, he wound up stabbing Eglon with a dagger to so much that apparently Eglon was so fat that the dagger got swallowed up by his fat. Enoch and Elijah are apparently the only two humans to never actually die. They just went up to heaven with God. Elijah actually is known for a lot of scenarios of just roasting people alive with the fire of God. I mean, there was one point where there was a king who wanted to arrest him, sent a captain of guard and 50 people with him, 50 of his soldiers. And they tried to arrest him, called down fire, they all burned to death. Then they sent another captain, another 50 guards, and they tried to arrest him. And Elijah sent down fire, they all burned to death. Third captain, his 50 soldiers come, he just bows down and says, please, I can't go back to my king without you, or else he'll kill me. And I know what happened to the guys before me. So please, would you please just come with me for my sake? Please, see my life is precious. And Elijah agrees. for that guy's sake. Like another thing I have an issue with when it comes to Bible is that I understand like it's important for humans to progress in a certain way on their own, to be able to make their own decisions. I mean, it's like if you have a kid and you do everything for them, they never grow as a person. But there are certain things that, as a society, should never have happened: rape, murder, torture, in general, war. A lot of things that happen shouldn't be happening. I mean, there's people starving in parts of the world. There's people rioting right now. And it's just, I don't see the point in people getting hurt. I know I'm being a bit boring with how I'm talking. I tend to trail off, and sometimes it's. I'll try to be more energetic in the future if I even do another one of these. Like I said, in the future, I'll probably just be recording a video game once I figure out how to work any of that. I tend to be at work close to 60 hours a week. Technically, I work 54 and a half hours, but still there for more than that. So might be hard to actually get around to actually recording anything. Or that Elisha was a disciple of Elijah. He was bald. Kind of reminds me of a Let's Player by Brett Tier. He goes by channel Tier Grace or Tier Disgrace. He's actually a cool guy. Kind of reminds me of Baron. I can't remember the guy's name. The wrestler from WWE. King Corbin, Baron Corbin. I'm not sure, but you guys, he had a rivalry with Roman Reigns at one point. But anyway, Brett Tier, he's a cool guy. He's actually very hilarious to listen to. Should definitely check him out. It kind of reminds me also, like, at one point I considered doing reaction videos like Amixar Plays or The Click or Nux Taku. Nux Taku is actually pretty interesting as a Let's Player. Well, not so much a Let's Player. He does videos where he shows his wholesome friends hentai videos and laughs at their reactions, which is just funny. It's just the interaction between them and just his personality is just it's very funny. He has like multiple channels like Nux Taku, Nuxanor, and stuff like that. I'd recommend him. And of course, everyone's heard of Markiplier. It's kind of fun to watch his Cuphead Let's Play. But yeah, Elisha was bald. Some people made fun of him, and he summoned bears out of the woods that clawed them all to death. Then there's the issue of Tower of Babel. Just what was the main language people were speaking back then? And then after the languages got confused, what were the main core languages that then people went to after that? Also, why didn't God speak to them before it got to that point? And also, here's the thing. If all of most of the world was destroyed, except for Noah and his, descendants pretty much, then how much time really went by between that and the Tower of Babel? And how did that many people arise? Because that doesn't make sense, even if they were breeding like bunnies. There had to have been more human beings, like the whole issue of Cain. There are more people than in diversity in certain amounts than what should exist according to the story. And even then, I mean, after the whole flood, I mean, you think that would be a very important thing to be passing on to each other, to stay in touch with God about that sort of stuff. Like, why did. But then again, it's kind of the feeling I have that, if something dangerous were to happen to me, whether or not God would actually save my life. Because, I mean, it's a very selfish way of looking at it, but take the Holocaust. 6 million Jews. I mean, they were slaughtered and butchered. No one saved them. God didn't. I mean, they died. Hell, I mean, God wouldn't have had to actually physically intervene. He could have just like spoke to Hitler or Amon Goth or Mengele or any of them, and like, head, stop it, and show them the error of their ways, and they would probably be like, oh, we're sorry, and then, repented. So, but then again, I've been criticized for being too soft and non-violent, so I just don't like when people get hurt. And I kind of feel like if all those other people got hurt, and then, I mean, their value of life was probably way greater than mine. So something bad were to happen to me, like why would I be? But skip past all that. It just various parts of stories, just interesting things. Of course, like I said, I like anime. I like Dungeons and Dragons. Watch quite a bit of different animes. Um, the idea of eight, like I said, the idea of 820 was like the idea that there's eight greater evils that people like should never ever do, like eight things that you should never ever do. And this should be the only eight things in which, a person should ever be executed for, that, would the death penalty would ever be appropriate. Like these eight things. Namely, one, murder, killing another person unless self-defense or an accident. Two, rape, pretty straightforward. That's forcing yourself sexually on another person. That's just, no, you don't do that. Three, castration, damaging someone else's sexually. Four, torture. Again, kind of straightforward. Especially hurting someone needlessly just to inflict pain, especially if they can't fight back. There's no purpose in it. It doesn't give you reliable information. It's usually just used by an authority just to control people. It's horrible and it's wrong. 5, slavery. And, people are not property. 6, pedophilia. Don't screw children. Heck, to quote The Click, since, like I said, he's a pretty funny reaction video guy, don't do the naughties with the kids. But like I said, watch his videos. He's kind of cool. But yeah, just don't know. 7, necrophilia. Don't screw dead things. Don't screw dead people. 8, lobotomization. You shouldn't lobotomize people. I kind of consider that worse than murdering them. I mean, you're robbing someone of their identity and who they are as a person. And you're damaging. And I also view, like, if you were to force someone into heroin or meth or scopolamine or any of that stuff, because you're destroying who they are. And you're basically robbing them of their identity and their free will. And that's horrible. Now, as far as the 20 lesser things that are more so suggestions that are just about society, about things to consider, I've only gotten 12 out of the 20 I've figured out so far. And even then, they kind of vary in how much they would actually matter to anyone. I mean, the things I thought, and like I said, a couple of them are actually based on words that I actually made up that really didn't have a normal meaning. I mean, one of that would be lying, particularly malicious lying. It's one thing to do a white lie, or you're lying to actually protect someone. So particularly malicious lying. 2 would be betrayal. 3 would be more so along the manipulation, particularly malicious manipulation. 4 is actually a reference to the Berserk manga, Mazgus. Depends on how far you are in the manga. He's a very religious person who believes very strongly in his God, but he allows his faith to blind him to things like compassion, empathy, or just caring about others, to where he's actually outright just being cruel and murdering people just because, and he still sees himself as a good guy. So just call that one Mazgus. Just to better understand that, just read some Berserk. Just not if you're too young. It's kind of a violent manga. Next couple, like abnegation and cruelty. Cruelty, I would just, you're damaging someone else's soul pretty much with psychological damage to them. Abnegation is kind of the idea that if you're doing a horrible thing to someone else, then you have to be damaging your own soul. I mean, there's no way you're hurting someone else and it's not changing you as a person. Beyond that, there's cannibalism. You shouldn't eat people. Next one is self-hatred. You shouldn't hate yourself. You should learn to love yourself. And of course, Jesus said, love your neighbor. But, you should love your neighbor. You should love each other. And you should respect your fellow man. But you should love yourself, regardless of whatever flaws you might have. You should be kind to yourself and treat yourself with respect. Um, Next thing would be don't, and I couldn't even figure out a word for this one. Don't eat something while it's still alive. I mean, if you're eating something, especially if it's an animal, it should actually already be dead before you eat it. Because I know there's some situations and foods, particularly types of squid or something, and fish, like just where people will try to eat stuff while it's still alive. Like it should be, if you're going to eat an animal, it should at least be dead before you eat it. Beyond that, arrogance toward God. I mean, even if you don't believe in God, just feeling that you're better than everyone else, or not respecting the lives of other people, thinking your life matters than everyone else's. Beyond that, malevolence, which that's the way to understand it. Just listen to some creepy pastas. You get the idea of what the concept of malevolence is. And then the 12th one I've gotten out of that would be censorship. Because, I mean, in general, I don't like the idea of anyone being censored. I mean, I feel all voices should be heard. I mean, heck, I grew up watching some South Park. There were certain parts in it that I felt were offensive, but it's kind of like the whole idea of you don't draw, the prophet of, Allah stuff when it comes to the Muslim religion. I mean, I don't feel that censorship should be a thing. Granted, there's some things I felt were inappropriate when it came to Jesus or God when it came to South Park, but I don't like the idea of censorship because I feel it's just, I don't know, what kind of society are we really going to have, if people can't talk to each other? And it's kind of another idea like when it comes to seven deadly sins. I mean, yes, each thing has its problems, but you look at it how it's a sin as far as how it hurts you as a person, but also it's part of a survival instinct. I mean, take pride. Yeah, too much pride, you don't watch you're doing, get yourself into situations that are way above your head. But at the same time, you don't have any pride. I mean, you're not going to do anything or accomplish anything in life. You're not going to have any motivation. You won't have enough belief in yourself to even try the things you want to accomplish, whether it's playing an instrument, getting in shape, um, getting a degree. I mean, you have to have some degree of pride in order to get out of bed in the morning and keep going. And even just without a survival mentality, I mean, even if you're a place where everything is safe and assured, I mean, it helps you keep your identity as a person. So, beyond that, I kind of want to discuss a little bit of Samson. We're on 33 minutes. I know I rambled on. I don't know if anyone can even hear me or what. And like I said, I'll probably get Steam and I'll probably play some games. I don't know what. Preferably something I never played before, so it'd be interesting. I know I should also end the stream, but also I don't even know if this is going to record. I'm using the YouTube Studio thing right now, and I'm not even sure how that really works. I assume when I end the stream, it'll give me the option to save it and upload it to YouTube. Before I say the same thing, like I said, the main gist was considering doing Let's Plays, but also reading Dungeons and Dragons books, and the Bible, and Warhammer books, and maybe Winnie the Pooh, or some light novels. But as far as Samson, I mean, he was one of the judges in the Bible, and his parents were having trouble having a kid. Angel came, spoke to his parents, told him that they're going to have a kid, but, basically can never shave his head or drink any alcohol. Basically be a Nazarite. And at that time, the Jews were having issues with people called the Philistines. And they were having a lot of problems. Anyway, as Samson got older, he didn't want to take a wife of his own people, even though apparently there were a lot that were wanting to be with him. And so he chose a woman from, I think, around the name of Timnath or something like that. And, he chose her. And he went and got married to her. Though while he was traveling, he wound up coming across a lion. And apparently he just wrestled the lion and just murdered it with ease. And left its carcass sitting there. And then went on journeying. Then sometime later, I don't remember how long. Could have been just a couple weeks or days. I don't know, maybe a month. Depends how long it takes to get anywhere. Comes back and some bees had built a nest in the lion's hide. And so he scoops into the lion's carcass, which that seems pretty gross. One, especially for us nowadays, used to the clean, filtered honey that you can just buy at Walmart. It's got all the wax and there's actual bees swarming around that are going to sting you. But it's also inside the rotting flesh of a lion. That doesn't seem hygienic at all. So, but he eats it and he enjoys it. He also takes it to his parents. He uses it as a sweetener for something I can't remember, to feed them, but he doesn't tell them where he got it from. And he goes on a little feast, with his wife and all that. And some of her people were there, and he makes a riddle of it, saying that, hey, you guys guess my riddle in 7 days, I'll give you each a change of clothes. But if not, you guys all owe me. And he told them the riddle. They couldn't figure it out. And they were starting to get a little agitated about it. So they pressed his wife about it, saying, hey, did you just invite us here to take advantage of us? Did you know he was going to tell us a riddle that we were not going to possibly understand? Did you invite us here just to take our wealth and steal from us? You get your husband to tell you the secret, to tell us, or we will burn you, your parents, your family, and your home to the ground. We will burn everyone to death. And of course, that probably worries her just a little bit. Anyway, so she goes to Samson and she talks to him saying, hey, you asked them a riddle, but you haven't even told me. And he's like, I didn't even tell my parents. Why would I tell you? And then apparently she kept getting on him about it and asking him and pleading with him, though she didn't really tell him why. And eventually he tells her. And then he tells them. And then, of course, they tell Samson. He's pissed. He's like, the one phrasing inside the Bible that works with it is like, it's like, you would not have found out if you had not plowed my heifer. I'm like, what? That wording, what? But point being is like, hey, you wouldn't have figured out if you hadn't questioned my wife. But he was pissed. So he went into the neighboring town and he murdered 30 men and took their clothes off their corpses. And he took their wallets and everything and whatever money or whatever they had on them and brought back, and he paid the people in the bet with, the clothes off the random 30 people he murdered. And then he told his wife that he was pissed off and angry at her, and he basically stormed off. Then, his wife's dad decides, well, he's not coming back. He must hate her. So here's this other guy here that's a friend of his. Hey, you marry her. So then they get married. Samson comes back and he finds out, hey, his wife remarried. He's not too happy about that. He gets pissed off at the dad and he's like, and just apparently he's like, hey, I thought you hated her, so I remarried her. She's got a younger sister. You want to marry your younger sister? I'll let you have a younger sister. And Samson's like, no, go screw yourself. I'll be avenged of everyone. And so he takes a bunch of foxes, I think like 50 foxes, ties them together, puts a firebrand in their tails, and lets them loose in cornfields and whatever crop fields they had back then. Burning fields to the ground. And of course, the people who own the fields and the rest of that city were kind of pissed off about that. So they went to Samson's wife and his family. Remember how they made that threat about burning her and her family to death about the riddle? Well, now they did it. They didn't even bother threatening. They just straight up did it. So they burned Samson's wife, his dad, her dad, her younger sister, the other person who's married to her, the rest of their family and their home. Everything got burned to the ground and died. Samson, of course, was not happy about that. So he then just beat the shit out of everyone. Says he smote him on the hip. So I assume he just broke everyone's leg. I don't know. But then, of course, that kind of word gets around about that. People are kind of pissed. So the Philistines start having issue with the Jews even greater so. Then a lot of the Jewish people and officials come to Samson and say, hey, what are you doing? These people are in a position to where, if we were talking like political castes, they are above us. We stand to be in a lot of trouble from this. So it's like we want you to come. We want you to come with us. We want to chain and bind you and bring you to them. And Sam says, hey, that's okay. You can tie me up and you can bind me and you can bring me to the Philistines. But I ask you, my own people, you're not going to kill me yourselves, are you? They're like, no, we wouldn't dream of it. We won't we won't cut you. We won't hurt you at all. But we'll just tie you up and give you to the people that are going to kill you. And so Samson went along with it, got tied up, got taken to the people that were going to kill him. And then once he got to them and his people left, he then broke out of the bounds. And it says the Spirit of God came upon him. And he took a severed donkey's jawbone. And it said that there was 3,000 men there. 3,000. And it said that he killed at least 1,000 plus using that jawbone. Then after killing 1,000 plus people with a bone of a donkey's jaw, he got really tired and thirsty. And he's like, well, what's the point of me basically killing all these people if I'm just going to die of thirst? But then a hollow part grows into the bone and the water starts springing out. So he's able to drink water out of the bone and not die of thirst. Then the Bible goes on to talk about how he went to a city to go have sex with a hooker. It's called a harlot in the Bible, but you get the point. And it's so casual about this that you think it only mentions this one time because of the issue with the gates that happens later that I'm about to say. Beyond that, though, the way it's worded, it's to be assumed that Samson's gone and had sex with lots and lots of prostitutes. So apparently that was a very common thing, especially so for him. So not really sure how society worked back then or what was going on, especially with the conflicting messages you get with the rest of the Bible. Just, again, stuff doesn't make sense, and I feel very confused. And I just don't understand half of it. But anyway, he went in, had sex with a hooker, and then the people in that city are like, hey, Samson's here. We're going to wait by the gate, and we're going to surprise him. And he knows they're there. But rather than just try to go around the gate or anything, he literally takes the gate posts and the door, rips them up, and he just carries the gate with him out of the city. I feel like they actually parodied that a little bit in Berserk. No, they actually think it was Princess Mononoke that kind of parried that a little bit with him pushing up, the demon-possessed arm. But that's a Ghibli movie of anime, and I'm talking about the Bible. But yeah, it's just the way that's portrayed. And then there's a whole thing with Delilah where he has a wife that is being very obvious with him that she doesn't care about him at all. And she keeps repeatedly asking him what his weakness is that would make him defenseless. And he keeps making up a lie to her. And then she does it, and then she'll do that thing to him. And then soldiers will come out, and he'll be like, nope, just kidding, psych. Kills them, and he's like, oh, we're good. And then he stays with the person who was obviously trying to murder him. And then this is a repeated thing. And then after multiple times of her obviously trying to murder her husband, he legitimately gives her the real weakness after being given all the evidence in the world that she is trying to kill him. And of course, the rest of the story is his power, his strength is diminished. He can't fight back. They gouge out his eyeballs, and then they take him prisoner. They make fun of him. They torture him. They beat the shit out of him. And they chain him up in this big, huge building. And they have lavish parties there where all the rich, influential people are. And they're just making fun of him. And he's just entertainment. But then it said at the end, he's able to, God grants him a little bit of strength at the very end to be able to pull up the supports of the building and crush the whole building. And it said that more people died in that crushing than in all the people he'd ever killed in his life, which is at least close to 2,000 plus people. So let's say there were probably at least close to like 3,000 people in that building. So that means when he destroyed that building, close to 3,000 people died. And he probably killed 5,000 people total in his life. Then again, he's said to be like the strongest person to ever live. Then again, there's a lot of issues of different parts of the Bible, just where, like each of the kings have things about them that, like David is said to have a heart after God. And gifted musician, a man of courage and bravery. But he also did the whole thing of Uriah, which was just horrible. And Solomon, he was said to be the wisest king to have ever lived, with most wisdom. He even had the greatest riches out of any king. He had like thousands of wives. And yet, despite having everything he could possibly want and having all the wisdom in the world, he wound up turning away from God just to pursue the, other deities. And I'm like, I don't understand that. But anyway, main point being, I am Lunar D8, and I'm going to try some Let's Plays and reading things like Dungeons and Dragons books and Warhammer books and light novels and the Bible itself, and trying to possibly talk to people. At some point, I might figure out how to work Twitch or Twitter or stuff like that. But yeah, like I said, I don't even know if this thing's recording, so I'm going to end this here, and maybe at some point I'll get Steam. And like I said, I'm using a Chromebook, so I actually would have to get like some sort of cross-running app to make Windows work on this, because apparently Windows programs don't work on a Chromebook. And I'm like, what's the point of having a computer if it doesn't run Windows? But apparently there's a crossover app I can use for that. And beyond that, I probably just get Steam then, because then Steam's considered, I guess, Windows application, so I would have to get that cross app to be able to run Steam. And then maybe try some games. Like I said, I want to try games I've never played before, so that way I can actually be my first time through. But yeah, I'm going to find out how to pause this or stop it. End stream. So it's the big red button. Yeah. But yeah, I'm Lunar D8, and I hope all of you have a good day. I just hope all of you are happy and love one another. And I hope I'll be able to be less awkward and be entertaining as a Let's Player, because I've just always enjoyed Let's Play videos myself. So, God bless, and I hope everyone has a really good day. Bye.